Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, beautiful meta-humans. How are you? I'm your host, CyberDragon, otherwise known as Peter. And we're just here with Logic Lab today to go through some basic stuff that you may not know, or you may know, and then teach some more advanced things about the rule system and make your games a little bit better and less buggy, I guess. So, yeah. Hope you guys have been enjoying the alpha season and farming that EP. So we do have documentation, like a series that is happening, and we go through like basic stuff and go all the way to advance. And I'm going to share that with you today and go through some of the things you can do. So let me grab that. Alrighty, so the first thing here is, whoop, there we go. So this one here is part 3 of the documentation series. And you can see all of them here on the left. And I'll share a link with that in chat. Let me find where I'm at. Yep. Just trying to find where I'm at. Okay, where is the screen? Here it is. So in chat, here is a link to this page here. And this video here is about 5 minutes long, and it will teach you about placing assets down and position them and rotating them and snapping them to the grid and all that sort of stuff. And also using things in a hierarchy to parent objects. So I'll show all of that in the Game Maker in a moment. But do check out that video and the documentation here if you're new or still learning the Game Maker. Part 4 of the series is here. I will share a link to that in the chat as well. Awesome. So this one here is setting object actions. So basically, this is a 5.5 minute video, and it'll go through the behaviors of AI, basically NPCs, so attacking and defending and walking around and interacting with the environment, and the tags that are needed to modify behaviors or put focus on damaging certain targets. But here you can check out the video for more in-depth stuff, but I'll go through some basic stuff on stream as well. And don't forget to check out our forum page. Here you can find all the documentation and other things that are maybe relevant. You can ask questions, you can even request features, report bugs, that sort of thing. So I'll send a link to this as well in chat. And I do recommend checking out the forum as well. There's a lot to learn, and you get access to information you may not see elsewhere. Cool beans? If you have any questions about any of this as well, feel free to interact in the chat, and I will be able to answer your questions and also show you examples of logic that you may be stuck on or curious about. So let's dig into, oh, that shouldn't be open. I got a few bugs happening on my screen. That's okay, we're in. All right, so the first thing we want to talk about is the placement of assets and hierarchy and that sort of thing. So this one here is the toolbar, and you can place assets in the toolbar to quickly select them as you need them. You can press L on the keyboard, and you're able to bring up the library and sort out different objects in the library. You click Basic tab here, and there's all the basic assets that come default with the Game Maker. And you can drag some of these assets from the library into the taskbar for you to get access to these whenever you want, real quickly. There's also here a grouping system. So if you want like blocks or certain assets on one, you can change them, and then you can also rename them as well. So you can keep track of all of this, like so. And then you can just track blocks in there. If you want blocks, you click the block tab here. You can click the basic, and now you've got all the basic blocks, and you can go ahead and just fill up your bar as you want. So you can access these whenever you like. And if you switch from blocks to group 1, here you might just have rename basic assets. And then you got your basic assets here. So that's a bit about the library and categorizing your workflow pretty much to make things easier and faster for you. Now that we've got that set, let's talk about this part at the bottom. So here we've got a grid system, and basically when you have a tree selected, you can place it anywhere you want on the map, and you can see the grid around the tree. Next you want to know is the snap-in tool. So if we click the snap-in tool, you'll see that our tree now moves from block to block instead of in between. So it's snapping to the grid. If we turn that off, you can see now I can place it anywhere around. But when I turn it on, it's snapping. And to change that as well, you have the numbers here. And I think, is it here or is it here? I can't remember. It's scale, so different size scale. But it still snaps to 1. You got the opacity here as well to see the grid more thoroughly or less visible. Or here you can just go opacity 0 or just turn it off here as well. So when you place it down, just left click. And then when you select the block, the tree, I don't want to see the grid, but for this example, we will. And you can move it with the axes. So you just click these arrows and they'll snap from block to block to block. And you can go up or down. If you have something in the air and you want it on the ground, instead of dragging it down, you can just click a button down here called snap to ground, or press C on the keyboard. And it basically snaps that asset to the ground. Next, you've got rotation. So you can click this button here or press R on the keyboard, and it brings up the rotation tool. And you can rotate the asset whichever degrees that you need. I think here you can just change it so it snaps differently. So you got 45 degrees, you got 90 degrees. So if you want more refinement, this is the way to do it. And that's if you hold shift. If you don't hold shift, you can rotate it any way that you like. And you can also change the numbers here manually if you have a specific degree that you're after. Okay, so T brings up the transform, R brings up the rotation. To rotate, you need to click on these colored gizmos. Otherwise, if you do it, you got the white, and the white allows you to rotate it in different formats. I don't really see a use for this white sphere. I'd never really use it. I'm more of a person that likes to do it on the axis itself. Cool. Next, we'll put down a car, and we'll put down a bear. And what we can do here is we can have snap, and it snaps on top of the car. So if we have a bear up in the air and we click snap, it snaps on the next surface, which happens to be the roof of the car. It comes with behavior by default. I'm going to remove those, and we're going to delete this tree. And basically now we've got a basic platform on the car, but it's moving sideways. We don't want it to move sideways, we want it to move forward. So we're just going to find that, and here it is. So it's moving down forward, and we can move the speed pretty slow. And we can have a wait duration when it hits the end, and we can tell it to look at the direction that it's moving. So if we go ahead and press tab to test, you can see now that the car is moving forward, but the bear is floating in the air. It didn't really follow with the car. So in this case, what we can do is go to our hierarchy panel, which is the button in the bottom left corner, or you can press H on the keyboard. And then you'll see our two assets here. You can select them in the list. And what we can do I'm going to remove the grid. We can grab the bear and we grab this targeting tool and we drag it on top of the car. And now the bear is parented to the car. And that means now when a car moves, so does the bear. So if we click tab, you can see now that the car is moving and so is the bear on top of the car. And you can change the speed of this so it's faster, and it can be really quick. And the bear will follow along and rotate with the car. And parenting is quite useful. I use it for quite a lot of things. So if you parent an object together and you have certain behaviors, you can grab the bottom parent and then create a preset, and we call it a car. And now when we go to our library and click presets, you'll see our car is here. And when we place it down, you can see it's attached with the bear and also all the settings that were on it as well. So you don't have to recreate each one, and you can keep it in the library for future placements. Another way to do that as well is Control D on the keyboard, and that will duplicate. I use this quite a lot. But having it as a preset as well means that you don't have to Control D and drag it to where you want. You can just have the preset and you can go to any position that you want to place without needing to drag it all across the map. So that's a bit about parenting and the hierarchy, the placement of assets, dragging them in the toolbar, that sort of thing. Next, we're going to talk about part 4 of the resources. So let's bring that up again. So here it's customize object behaviors and tags. So in future game makers, tags is going to be pretty important because you'll be able to send messages to tags directly from the rule system. And you can add and remove tags during gameplay as well. So this one here is, well, this lesson here is going to be only short-term relevant because in 0.11 it changes, especially the behaviors of the AI. So let's go through that together and we'll check it out. Hey, last year trial, welcome to the stream. So we'll put down one of these NPCs. We also want to look for another NPC that's different. So what we'll do here is we'll go to Characters tab, we'll go to Basics, and we can use the bear. Yeah, we'll use the bear in this one. And we'll also use some grass. So let's see if we can find some grass under props. And we've got some grass here. We can place something like tall grass. That will do. It says it's wish listed. Let's not use wish listed stuff. Let's use some basic. Yeah, we'll use something like this. All right, so first thing I want to show is, well, you have citizen behavior. Citizen behavior has a friendly tag. So friendly tag means that I can't hit it with my sword and do damage. So I can swipe at it and it's not going to do any damage regardless of what I do. And that's due to the friendly tag. So you can put that on anything that has health that you don't want the avatar to damage. So just put the friendly tag with a capital F because it is case sensitive on anything that you want to have health but not have the avatar damage it. The citizen just walks around. So if we click edit logic, you can see all the different values. So in this blue square is where the citizen will wander around. It's randomized. You can expand on that one if you want. So there's more bigger walk-in area. Just bear in mind, the bigger the walk-in area, the more lag spikes you're going to occur during gameplay because of the calculation that's required for the NPC to go from destination to destination. So I do recommend it keeping it under 10 by 10. You also have walk speed, so it can walk faster. You can flee from targets, and it can also flee when attacked. And there's also run speed when it does decide to run away. And it will run away if it detects a tag called hostile. And this red circle here is where it will detect the hostile tag before it decides to run away. So if we put a wolf down, the wolf comes with no tag, but we can go ahead and put hostile. And it shouldn't be an asset spawner. We'll get rid of that. Here we can put in a different behavior. So here are our NPC behaviors. We have predator, we have prey, we have melee, we have healer, farmer, and soldier, and also citizen. So predator is the thing that you want the citizens and other friendly NPCs to detect and run away from. And you want predator to attack certain tags as well. So it's going to attack the avatar when it detects it in this red circle. And it's also going to wander around in this blue square. Okay, so if we go ahead and just test that out, you can see the hostile is walking, and the citizen detected the hostile and decided to run away. And if I get too close to it, it's supposed to attack me. There it is. And it chases me around because one of the tags that it's looking for is the avatar tag. So you can go ahead and attack it. And if you hold right click, it's going to block all that damage. And you can hear a little cling sound. Even if it attacks me from behind, it still blocks the attack. And this is how you do battle with the hostiles. By blocking their attack and then hitting. Blocking their attack and then hitting. And here you can put any tag you want for the predator to attack. You just put the tag here. So if you have a bear tag on this guy, and then you have a bear tag for this to attack, and you press tab, you can see already the wolf is detected the tag and is now attacking. It's attacking me now because I'm also on the tag. And I can't attack this because it has a friendly, but I can attack this because it does not. But if I go ahead and put the friendly tag on the wolf, so the wolf can attack me now, but I cannot attack it because of the friendly tag that is on it. Another thing you can do here is we can choose a different kind of behavior. I think maybe soldier or this one. We'll have a look. And this one here will detect a certain tag. So I think we can do A. And we can have the same thing here. And we can have the tag B. And we'll put the A tag on this one. And the B tag on this one. And they should be attacking each other. Because they're detecting each other's tags. And now a battle is ensuing. And then you can like duplicate this, duplicate, Control D, Control D, Control D. And then you can have an all-out war. Yeah, so they're attacking each other. And I can attack both of them. Because they don't have the friendly tag, but if I go ahead and put that on, now they'll be attacking each other, but I can't intervene. We also have grass, and with grass we can have the tag plant, And then we can have something like this bear here to have a, I don't know, a farmer. And a farmer will gather anything with plant attached to it. So if we go ahead and duplicate this a couple of times and check that out, it should be walking to the grass and farming it. Let's see if it actually does it. Yep, there you go. So it's picked one of the grass and it's basically harvested it to delete it from the map. And it'll wander around for a bit, pick another grass, wander around a bit, pick another grass. So you've got some sort of like farming mechanism there. I haven't really used that one much myself, but there is probably some use cases for that. I don't know if it sends a message once it's harvested. That's something we can probably test out. I don't think it does, but let's see. We can send a message QQ to everyone in range, and we'll just put something down. And we'll put like a speaker on it to see if the message from here actually goes to this. And we'll just say QQ, and we'll have QQ, and we'll get rid of this and this. So the farmer has to go for this one. And let's see if it works. It doesn't, so no message is sent on def. It just literally just removes it from the map, so that's the only thing that does. Please note that this system here is changing in 0.11 and 0.12. There won't be farmer, citizen, soldier, all of this stuff. There will be friendly NPC and enemy NPC, and you'll be able to add different modules to the behavior. So if you want it to flee, you can add a flee module. If you don't want it to flee, you add different things. So it'll be a lot more module based, where you can add the different settings you actually want on your NPCs rather than having all of this, and you may not want flee. So it's more of an optimization thing, but it will change gradually as Game Maker updates. All right, so that's that. Have I missed anything? Let's have a look. All right, so we talked about object behaviors, we talked about tags. If you want to know more, watch this video on the documentation. It will go through all that sort of stuff and show examples as well. And the properties panel, the tags, the behaviors, editing the component, that sort of thing. Cool beans? Cool beans. Alrighty. All right, let's delete all this stuff and we'll start with a clean board. We can click H for the hierarchy and you can see nothing else is here. All right, so I'm going to show you a trick that I found that makes key inputs a little bit better. So if a player presses 1, 2, 3 on the keyboard, it sends messages out to the world. And I want to show you a few tricks that might help you out here. So we've got input 1. It's not going to look at target. It's going to display for 2 seconds. If we duplicate, we're going to have 2, and it's going to be input 2. And if we duplicate, we can have 3 for input 3. I'll do one more, duplicate, and then we'll have 4 for input 4. All right. Basically now we're going to set up so when you push 1, 2, 3, 4 on a keyboard, it's going to display the speaker to say the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 over the top. So if we go to our gameplay, which shows up our game rules, we're going to click a variable. And we want to create a couple of variables here. So we want the number variable, and we want it to be local. So player number. And that means whoever, when it's a local variable, also known as player variable, it will only be attached to the player, not to every other player. And we can use this to have individual gold, individual experience, or trigger individual things in the rules based on the player's number. The value will stay 0. We also want a time. So time will be also local. So player time. And we can use the time to have cooldowns and gaps between actions. And this time will only be relevant to the player's local. So when we do an input, I'll show you all of that as well. And now let's go to the rules. And what we're going to do is set number value. And what we're going to do here is we're going to set player number. And we're going to add it as a message argument. Message argument allows you to send variables with the message. And for this one, we're going to add just a number here. I'm going to call it player number. You can put whatever name you want, doesn't really matter, as long as you know what it does. We have player number, that's what we're going to select. And the value we're going to send is from the message argument. So now what we can do here is with the spawn point, we can add tags to the player, and we can say 1. We can also assign team, and we can have team 1, and we can just drag this down to minimum, which is 3. So now when a player spawns on this one, they're going to be team 1, and they'll have a tag that's tag 1. You can duplicate this with Control D, and now what you can do is have team 2 with tag 2, Control D. And then you have team 3 with tag 3. And what we could do now is when you have a tag on the avatar, we can use our trusty numpad and we'll bring it down here. And what we'll do here is we'll have a speaker. And the speaker, we could actually do volume, I think, as well. Let's see if we can do trigger volume. And what we want to do is specific tags in range. And we want to look for the tag 1, which is what the player gets when they spawn in this portal here. Make sure that this detection is covering the avatar portal. So when they spawn in, it automatically does it. And when it detects the tag 1, it's going to send a message player set player number, and that player number will be player 1, and we're going to send that to the rules. So now when a player spawns in, they're going to have the tag 1 on them. This trigger volume is going to detect their tag 1 and set their player to be 1 in the rule system. So if we go to the rule system to check that out, we will go to rules, we will go to events and on player join. So when a player joins, it will send a message. We're going to send a message HUD. We're going to create a HUD. We're going to send that message HUD to bring up the HUD. And in here, we're going to select our variable player number so we can see that. And we'll just call it player number. Perfect. And now when we press tab, we spawned on avatar portal 1. And you can see in the left-hand side near the top, it says player number 1. You can also change here on the avatar portal zero. So that means they will spawn directly in the middle. I was kind of off center when I spawned. So you can have it so players can spawn anywhere in this circle. So I just have it as 0 so they always spawn in the center. You can have it whatever you need for your game, but that's what this does. And now we can duplicate this. Control D, bring it over here, and we want to detect tag 2 and set the player number to be 2. And if we duplicate this, we'll do the same thing here. We're going to edit the logic, include tags 3, and create set the player number to be 3. So when we press tab, we spawned on a second portal, and you can see our player number is 2. If we do that again, we spawned on a third portal, and our player number is 3. And it just means that everyone will have their own unique number when they spawn in. So if you have 20 of these portals, you can have 20 different tags on the 20 different avatars, and they can all trigger their own thing in the rule system. Awesome. What you could do is make that invisible, highlight the numpads and remove collisions so the player can't walk into them. You don't want them trying to walk into something that's invisible. It looks a bit glitchy. We'll go ahead and save this, and then we'll hop into the rule system and start putting our key inputs. Hey Timio, how's it going? Thanks for joining. So now we're going to go to the rule system. We're going to zoom out, bring this up here. Now we're going to go to rules, and we're going to do triggers, and we want to do key input. So when a player pushes 1 on the keyboard, we can send a message on down or on release. We're just going to go press 1 to send a message 1. And what we do here is if we do a comparison, so we're going to compare numbers. So when a player pushes 1, we're going to send a message here. We're going to compare their player number. And if their player number is equal to 1, we're going to input input 1. If we go ahead and duplicate that and make that 2, we can do input 2. And if we duplicate this one and do 3, we can do input 3. Basically now whenever someone pushes 1, it's going to compare their player number. And if it equals to their player number, it's going to send that message. We have different messages here, input 1, input 2, and input 3. So if we go ahead and press tab, we're player 1. So if we push 1 on the keyboard, you can see it's displayed number 1. If we push it again, it's shown number 1. If we press tab and go back in, we are now player 2. So if we push 1 on the keyboard, you can see it's sending a message only to this one, and only player 2 can trigger this one by pushing 1 on the keyboard. And if we push tab again, we will be on the third avatar portal. Our player number is 3. So when we push 1 on the keyboard, you can see it's only affecting this one here. So that's how you can individualize different toggles with the same key by different players. Cool. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to delete this and delete this one. That was just to give you an example. So what we're going to do here is duplicate this, and we're going to change it so the key input is 2. It's going to send a message 2, and it's going to go here. And if our player number is 1, we're going to send a message input 2. And if we duplicate the whole rule set again, and we go to key select 3, we send a message 3. That comes over here. It's going to see if our player input number is 1. If it is, we're going to send the message input 3. Now what happens here is if we're player 1, we can push 1 on the keyboard, 2 on the keyboard, and 3 on the keyboard. And that allows us to use the different keys to trigger different messages. And I can push 1, 2, and 3, or 3, 2, and 1. And you can see that they are triggering the speaker. And you can do things like spawn things, or shoot things, or kill things, add things to the rules like gold, that sort of thing. Activate traps. There's plenty of things that you could do here. But there is a weakness to this. So if you have a game where a player needs to push option 1, option 2, or option 3 for a questionnaire or a results kind of based game like pick box 1 or pick box 2 or pick box 3, when it comes to the selection time, I could push all three at the same time. And it's going to select all three. And that kind of breaks the game because you want the player to be able to only select one thing. And just say you have push 1 to buy, push 2 to upgrade, push 3 to sell. If you go ahead and push all three, it's going to activate all three. It's going to buy, upgrade, and sell. And that's going to kind of ruin your game. So there is a little trick to get around that. So even when the player spams all three buttons, it's only going to do one of those selections. And I'm going to show you this because it's actually quite helpful, and it's helped me eliminate a lot of problems in logic. And it's taken me a while to work out this one. So I'll share that one in a moment. Temio says, yeah, huge logic add-on really. Already implemented it in my PvP, completely different gameplay feeling playing in teams. Yep, that's the way to do it. Okay, so how do we bypass this one? To stop spamming of the keys, to not activate all three, but only to activate one when all three buttons are spammed. All right, so you may have remembered that we created a variable called player time. This is not by accident. We are going to use this to trigger things. So the way we do this now is we'll put this over here and we'll bring this over here. So we have key input 1, key input 2, and key input 3. Actually, I'm going to bring these back down again because I need to expand on these. All right, so we're going to say pushed 1. Pushed 2 and pushed 3. And what we could do here is actually we can just say input made, and we can have it for all three here. And now we're going to add a set number value. And what we need here is a new value. We're going to have a number, and that number is going to be local, and we'll say input value. Okay, and that's a local as well. It's where we're going to store our input. So when a player pushes 1, it's going to set our input value to 1. We're going to go ahead and duplicate this one, and we'll drag it into here. And we're going to say 2. And we're going to make our input value 2. We're going to duplicate this as well. And we'll drag it into here. And we're going to have 3. And our input will be 3. So when a player pushes a number, it's going to say input made. It's going to set this input value as 3. And we got this one as 2. And this one as 1. The reason we have the same message here is because the comparison here is not relevant because of the player needed. When there is a player needed, you can chain logic that won't trigger for everyone because the chain begins or has a player needed in the middle of it. So what we're going to do here is our input made is our next message we're going to use. So we're going to go to rules, we're going to go to time, and we're going to start timer. That timer here is going to be input made. Yeah, this one actually doesn't work in 0.10 now thinking about it. It works in 0.11 because we have the ability to toggle on and off key inputs. But let's check. Let's see if we can actually do this. We'll see what happens. So if we go input made, we're going to do player time, and we're going to wait 0.2 seconds, and then we're going to say check input. And when we check input, we're going to do comparisons. We're not going to do that. We're going to do comparison numbers. So check input is going to come here. And, whoops, nope. And we're going to check the input value. And if it equals to 1, we're going to do the input 1. And if it's 2, we can do input 2. And if it's 3, we can do input 3. You can have whatever gap you want, 0.5 seconds. So once an input's made, it's going to have a break, so like a break timer. Then it's going to check the input, and whatever the input value is, that's what it's going to send. So if we go ahead and check that out, and now if we push all 3 at the same time, nothing's going to happen because our player number is 2, and we only set up the logic for player number 1. So we're going to go ahead and delete these 2. So we make sure that we are player 1. And now when I push all 3 buttons at the same time, you can see only one input has been selected because it's going to do whatever you've basically pushed last. So if you do push all 3 buttons roughly at the same time, whatever was the basically last thing that you pushed, that's the thing it's going to use. So that way you can't activate all 3 things at once. It's only going to use one thing. And if I spam the buttons non-stop, it's not going to do anything until I stop for half a second. Ooh. How did I bring up that menu? F1 brings that up, by the way. F1, if you want to see controllers. So now we've stopped the spamming of multiple selections, where you can now specify which one it's going to be based on this logic here. Now that prevents things from buying, selling, and upgrading at the exact same time. It's only going to select one thing, and it's going to be very close on what it picks. So it will force players to not spam them because they probably want to be specific on their action since they can't abuse the system anymore. So it stops players from spamming all 3 and triggering all 3 things at once. And then players will be more specific on what they choose because now the system is not abusable. All right, Timmy has got a question. If you maybe know a simple way to show the score like 1-to-1 or 3-to-1 related to rounds or player 1 without creating 20 text values. Now, is this so everyone can see it, or is it just so the player themselves see it? Hey, Zero, how's it going? Simple way to show the score, like 1-1 or 3-1, related to rounds player 1, without creating 20 text values. I don't think I'm following here. So is it a... is it a 2-team score system? So like soccer, like 2 goals on this team, 3 goals on that team, that sort of thing. And you just have 2 variables which will show the score, basically. You can't have that on the one. I am showing like player 1, 1-2 rounds, player 2, 1-1. If you wanted to show everybody, like you can't display all 20 values at the same time. So when are you showing these scores, and why would you show player 1 score over player 3 score to everybody? So I need to know a little bit more of what you're trying to do. And how you're activating this and why you're showing them. You can't show scores like what you're displaying on a single value. You will need 2 values. Yeah, I see what you're trying to say. So the way I would do it is here you'll have a number and it will be local, and this will be player player wins, and that will start off as 0. So you'll have player wins. You'll also have a set text value, and you'll also so set text value, and here you'll have player text. You create a message argument, and you have text for text, and I usually have number for time or whatever the case may be. I like to create these two. You don't have to use them both. And then you need to create a local text, and we have message argument to send a message based on the message argument, I guess. Maybe it's number value that we need. Just thinking about it quickly here. Number value, player score. Player score will be number score. And then we have player wins, and it will be message argument. You can ignore this one. I don't think we're going to use that. So we have a local wins for the player, and now we need a global for team 1, and then we need another global for team 2. Now we need to have a HUD up here somewhere. Yep. So we can have team 1 score, and we'll say team 1, and then over here we can have team 2 score, and this will be team 2. And when a player wins, all right, it's going to add 1 to their player wins, which is a local number, and we're using a message argument and player score. So if we have, let's move all these at the back, we'll duplicate them, and we'll remove this, and we'll have a collectible action, which will be collision. And then what we can do here is player wins. Then we have I guess we can just do a normal message here, and we'll make it go to the rules. So when the player collects this, they win. You can do it with any message. This is just to give you an example. And we'll separate these, just a bit of a gap. And now we're going to add a math rule. So when player wins, we're going to get the variable player wins, which is local, and we're going to add it, the message argument. No, we're just going to add the value 1 to player wins. So it requires player needed, and we'll put the score up here as well. So instead of player number, we'll just do this one, and we'll have player wins. So let me go ahead and bring this in. All right, so we've got team 1 and team 2 at the bottom, and we have our player wins on the left. So if we pick up something, you can see I've got player 1 wins, player 2 wins, player 3 wins. But at the bottom, we've got team 1 and team 2, which is still showing 0 score, right? Now we want to make the player that has 3 wins show at the bottom that they have 3 wins and they're on team 1. Is that right? Something like that? Because the teams at the bottom is the score that everyone sees, and the player wins on the left is only what the player sees, because it's a local. So if you want the player's actual wins to show at the team at the bottom, yes, but in one value, yes, okay. So what you do here is you use the rule set number value, and you can set the number value by set team 1, And what we're going to do is we're going to use team one, and we're going to use the value of player wins. So we should have set team one, and a team one score will now be the value of whatever the player wins is. And I think that has to be triggered by the player. So set team one. So if we have like a teleportation, but here we'll have a volume trigger. So we have a player that enters the battlefield. We will have, I don't know, something, whoops, keyboard problem. 2x2x2. We have set team one. That's going to go to the rule system. So now if I have a score of 2, and now I'm going to enter the game, and I jump in, you can see team 1 score is 2, and everyone gets to see that. So now that I'm on team 1 and I'm battling, people can see that I have 2 wins. If I collect another one, you can see my player wins is 4, but at the bottom the team is still 2. You need to set that value with that rule. So all you're doing here is taking a local wins value and setting it as the global team value. So you basically use this rule here to transfer information from the locals value into the global value. So all you need now is just one variable for the player wins, and everybody has their own player wins. You don't need 20 of them. You just need one, and everyone has their own separate wins. And then when you transfer it over, the person that triggers that message is setting their wins to the global team. So if someone is team 2 and they get teleported into a game and they're team 2, same thing over here. You're going to set team 2, and you're going to have a same message, same system here, but you're going to have set team 2, and you're going to change that to team 2. So now when I pick up, say, 1, and I got a team win, I got a personal win of 1, and I join team 2, you can see my wins is 1. If I pick up 3 and I've got 3 wins and I join team 1, you can see team 1's value is now 3. No, you can't show a score like you're displaying in the one value. You can't have 2 players' values in the one variable. You have to have them at the bottom separately, team 1 and team 2. So you can't have a soccer scoreboard. So it's best to do them separate at the bottom for the time being. You probably could do it, maybe, but the workarounds are so crazy that it's not even worth considering. And it's for very little benefit as well. So it's best to have 2 separate variables just to show each one separately, in my opinion. We're working on a leaderboard system. It should have already been released by now, I think, but I don't know. There's some still things that need to be fixed, and it's still not ready for public release, but it is coming very soon. Because the way you want to display things is using this text here, right? So player text, and then you can set text value. But like if you have a maximum of, say, if it's impossible to get a high score, like higher than 10, then maybe you can do it. But if there's like unlimited score, the higher the maximum score can be, the bigger the workaround needed and the more assets and rules you need for something that's very little benefit. If you say the max wins can only be 5, then there could be a workaround because you don't need as many variations to show 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4, 0, 5, and then it's 1, 2, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1. You need one. You need a text for each possible possibility, and that could be a bit crazy, if you know what I mean. Yeah, but we're not using variable numbers, we're using text. Maybe? Because it's a team game, so you can have 2-1, right? So that you can't use the max value because the second digit will be 1 and the first digit will be 2, which bypasses the whole max value thing, so it won't work. Does that make sense? If you know the solution Xura, then you can definitely try to create a tutorial or an example for him. But I don't see that working because the first value can be greater than the second value. So the max is not really, maybe it could work. I don't know. Let me have a quick look. Because you got value only, you got max. And the max value is always going to show this value, right? So you can't change it from 1 to 2 and have this to be 4, 2, if that makes sense, because the minimum is higher than the maximum. Sort of like soccer, yeah? This is a variable. You can switch boards as the max value goes up, but then if it's like 5-0, you can't show 5-0 because the max is the max, right? So you can't have minimum higher than the maximum. So if you have a soccer game that shows 5-0, you can't put that in the same variable slot, I don't think, without crazy stuff happening with the text. Check Discord. All right. I'll log in. Be right back. I'll have a quick look. Oh, you're just showing me what I'm showing on screen, right? Variable. All right, let me switch that back on. Let me switch back over. Scene. Would that work though? And you also got to show it for everyone, which means the HUD needs to switch for everybody, right? Or do we just update the value and already existing HUD shows? All right, so if we do player wins as max, let's see what it looks like. See? You can't have the first one bigger than the second one. You can't set minimum values, so you can't have like 5-0. Does that make sense? I could be wrong, again. I don't know, but that's how it works in my head. So how would you display 5-0 using this method? Player wins. And we're team 2. Let's see if this works. Maybe it could work. Okay, it does work. Okay, it does work. There you go. And then if we set that value down here, it's 4. Set that value as 4. And then it does 4. And it does 4 out of 4. Maybe you can play around with that. That might actually work. Nice one. I didn't think you can set a minimum value greater than max, but it looks like that you can. Nice find. Very good. There you go. Teamwork makes the dream work. Well, there you go. So thank you very much for that info. That is quite useful. So it looks like you can have team 2, but what about team 1? Because this one here is showing player wins, right? So if you have team 1, still requires a bit of mucking around, I think. Yeah, it could work. Absolutely. So that is the way to do it. That's very good. So you'll need to play around with the minimum maximum. You need to have team 1, team 2. You can still convert the player wins over using that method I showed with the set number, and then you can pick things up to change the variable, and then when players join you can set team 1 and team 2 score, which then goes to the HUD. So I've got team 2 and team 1. Play around with that and see if the answer is somewhere in that sort of method, and hopefully that works. So in today's stream, we have got these settings here for key inputs, which after a input is being pushed, it sends the message input has been made, and it sets the value of the key that was pushed in the input value. Then a timer is triggered. You can have that 0.1 or 0.5 or whatever the case may be. And then once that timer is finished, it's going to check and compare that key input value and then send a message based on the end value. And this prevents players from spamming all the keys at the one time to trigger all 3 events. It will only trigger 1, which is quite handy. And I've used it in a lot of my current games that I'm building, because you're able to spam all the buttons and select everything at once. So I was forced to find something to prevent that, and this is the best method I could find. That was in my Discord channel under the Sandbox chat. Yeah. Now with this as well, you could duplicate this. And when a player pushes 1, you can check if their value is 2. And if player 2 pushes it, let's see if that works. We'll go ahead and make that visible. We'll duplicate this. We'll make this one team 2 with tag 2. And we'll have this one here, detect tag 2, set player number 2. And when I push 2 on the keyboard, nothing happens. When I push 1 on the keyboard, you can see I have now pushed, oh, there we go. I'm pushing 3, nothing's happening. I push 2. Nothing's happening. If I push 1 and 2, it's detecting my key input for 2 for some reason. So that's kind of weird, because if you push 2 and my... that's because it still can set the key input value, which is interesting, even though, yeah, because that needs to be individualized. So if you want each player to have their own triggers, you may need to have input made .p1 for player 1, and then input made .p2 for player 2. So that way we're not triggering each other's set values and triggering the same assets over here. So we can separate these with by adding .p1 or .p2 at the end. So that way each player is triggering their own thing rather than the same thing. So a lot of setting up can be done by individualizing the messages here. And then you have your own timer, which will be input made .p2. Obviously this will be duplicated for the second player. And so forth and so forth. Link to join. Oh, I thought you were already in my Discord. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me have a look. So my Experienced Dread Manor has a Discord link in here. So if you are interested in joining, there you go. But that's it for today. If you do have any questions or want to know more things in the future, do send me a message on Discord or next week's stream. We'll go through the next 2 lessons of the documentation made by Becky in the education area. And yeah, have fun playing Alpha Season 4. And I wish you all the best. Thanks for tuning in today. Take care. Bye-bye.